considered Victorian writers. طيب, what is the one single issue that writers in the كويس يا مصطفى ان انت سجلت تمام. بس خليني لحظة كده. alright. ماشي تمام. What is the one single issue that everyone in the Victorian age was interested in improving or reforming?
Education.
Good. Now, have you read? I understand that you have not yet got the book, which will start appearing on the university platform from tonight onwards. You can have it, you can download it, and then start studying from it. If you still remember what we explained while engaged with Nobody's Story by Dickens, I would like you to tell me how Dickens managed to convince us with that issue of education. How did he champion the cause of education in Nobody's Story? How did he do that?
He used irony.
Using irony. This is
Strong
one of
language.
the
Individualism.
Thank you very much. One by one. Thank you very much, everyone, for being ready to come up with an answer. But I should like you to be organized and to be systematic and to arrange your ideas into major categories. So talk about the form and talk about the content. The content is the story that the writer has chosen for the whole piece. What kind of story is it? What kind of plot? This is one. The other thing is, how has he made use of the various techniques of novel writing or short story writing؟ زي ما انتم بقى بتقولوا دلوقتي irony وستايل وlanguage و the other things relating to the writer's artistry. So let's start first of all by talking about the type of story that Dickens has chosen, type of plot line, the type of tale, the type of interest. So he picked up or he selected one single person, an individual living living in and grappling with the problems of poverty and disease and hunger and lack of education at his time, and also class distinction. And that is why he chose the title to be Nobody's Story, which is the same as the story of everyone, but unknown people, marginalized, oppressed people, the ones that Dickens loved to support and to sympathize with, as he wrote on his epitaph. This is one. This is your turn now to talk to me about the other techniques. Like what? Please let me know. Yes.
First of all, he used irony and repetition.
This is
good.
Irony. Please elaborate. In what way has he used irony?
He used irony in a way that showed us that the rich people are greedy and we don't care about education.
How so? Give me an example, please. Like what?
By saying مثلا bigwig, and by saying the bigwig family. Another thing, just a second, please.
This is nice. Thank you very much. This is an example of irony. While for the first time, at first sight, when you read Big Wig Family, you have the impression that he is going to talk about aristocratic people and their lives and their concerns, but he is in fact satirizing them in an indirect way.
As well as, sorry, John.
Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
As well as using the words stateless, noisist, and
وبعدين النقطة دي مع الirony
other
أصلا the irony is involved in his use of words like trumpeting, for example, speech making. They were busy and repeating that all the time and harking upon this or stressing this all the time. And في كلمة كمان هو قالها اسمها stately. They are one of the state list and some of the state list and some of the noisiest. يبقى هنا مع الirony we also have contradiction or juxtaposition. He's juxtaposing two images, trying to create some kind of harmony, reconciliation, that is to say, between two opposite images. You're stately, that is to say, you're majestic and exquisite and magnificent and monarchic, but at the same time, you are noisy. Not only noisy, but you are one of the noisiest ever. You know, out of that kind of juxtaposition or contrast or paradox lies his criticism or harsh criticism, actually, of what we call class distinction in England at that time. Thank you, Anada. Bravo عليك. What else has Dickens made use of?
Individualism.
Well, individualism, but you need, again, you need to elaborate on this. What do you mean by individualism? Hello, this is good. But what is meant by individualism in this respect?
In the beginning, he wrote he,
تمام.
and it refer to individualism.
This refers to individualism. Well, thank you very much. We already said that he manages to talk about the problems of one individual from the very beginning of the short story, and this shows his bias or support for the problems or the plight of common people, victimized people. Thank you very much. If you have checked the chat window, okay, I have written something. I've just written something here, which is lofty language. Have you seen that? In the window that is called chat, the chat tab. So, have you seen it? What is lofty language?
Elevated.
Elevated. And what does that mean, please? Hello? What is elevated language? This is correct. Bravo عليك. But I need to make sure that you understand what it means. Elevated language. Well, elevated is superb language. No. It is superb language. It is super language. It is the kind of language that is majestic, again, that is high, that is supreme, that is super. It's super language. It's exquisite language. It is metaphoric language. As you can see when you look at the story from the very beginning and his description of nature and his description of the individual. And then little by little, he moves on from the description of nature to the description of aristocratic people, and then to the poor person, and then back to them, and then back to his family, and ending up with him talking to us about his wife and his children. In every part and every aspect of the language of Dickens, there is a sense that this is not the language, could we say it, of the common man? Is it the language of the common man? No. He is using the language of great writers that is rhetorical and metaphorical in order to provide us with adequate background or enough background to describe the problem or the crisis of the common man. So while in fact using that tool of lofty, elevated, super, supreme, exquisite language in order to describe aristocratic people and the atmosphere and the background, once he moves on to the description of the common man, اللي هو that nobody, the person whose name we do not know, the language becomes easier and easier, and it becomes modest. يمكن نقول كده كمان modest sometimes. If someone can give me a hand, I'm trying to share from mobile because I'm using my mobile now. I would like to share something from OneDrive, but OneDrive does not appear to be one of the options. Do you have an idea? Got an idea, please? How to share from mobile while using this? Captions, coordinate with our stop recording.
اوبشن كده ممكن تعمل منه شير حضرتك.
منين؟ ما انا عندي شير اهو، بس لما بفتح شير هنا قدامي شير فوتو، انا مش عايز فوتو ولا فيديو ولا باوربوينت. I would like to share the PDF file itself.
ممكن شير سكرين.
ما هو سكرين، انت هتشوف كل حاجه على السكرين بتاعتي وانا مش عايزك تشوف كل حاجه على السكرين عندي. You see? طيب, I have a solution but it will take a couple of minutes. Please wait. معلش. So we are almost into the middle of the story, right? I wish you could have a look at the remaining part of it, but I know that you still have no access to the book. صح. نسيت لحظة واحدة. Okay. ماشي.
حضرتك ممكن تبعته في الكومنتس وهم يفتحوه برضه.
لا ثواني بس خلاص حليت المشكلة يا محمد. Thank you very much. Well, you have it now in front of you, right? Plus, and then طيب هنروح بعيد ليه؟ So here is there is an idea here about the contents of the book, as you can see in front of you. We covered almost all this. حاجات يعني كان حتى في page 424 حاجات من النص حاجات من الآخر. تمام. And here at towards the end, this is page 643. 643. Yes, Nobody's Story by Charles Dickens. Now, this is the story itself. What were we saying? We were saying that there is that use of lofty language, like unaccountable proceedings, which raise marveled much. Anywhere that you look at the story, you will find Dickens excelling or becoming an excellent writer because he's a master of rhetoric. Right? I guess we moved on and on. Becoming peaceable again for his passion was usually short-lived. لحد ما نوصل للمنطقة yes, state of uproar, those people اللي كانوا بيوصفهم من شوية لأن هم stately دلوقتي بيقول إن هم in a state of uproar. زي ما قلت لك في level of juxtaposition between the outer or outward description, superficial description of those people as majestic and the real harsh criticism leveled at them by the writer. A state of uproar that is absolutely deafening, and this is not a mark of aristocratic people at all. Their voices are so high, they cannot hear themselves actually. It's as if they were at the parliament. تبص كده name calling. نرجع لها تاني من فين حتة. Look at the sentence كمان يعني please pay attention to this stylistic remark. في حاجة في الدراسات الأدبية النقدية اسمها stylistics. stylistic remark إن إحنا بنلاحظ شكليا كده الكتابة بتاعت ديكنز أو غيره من الكتاب مثلا the length of the sentences. How long is this sentence? كده نبدأ من أول when وهنقول مثلا هنا معلش when some few voices. وانت ماشي كده هات لي كده فول ستوب. حد يعرف يجيب لي فين الفول ستوب؟ فين الفول ستوب واحنا ماشيين اهو. فول ستوب. Have you come across a full stop here? من أول فين؟ من أول هنا. When some few voices were faintly heard proposing to show him the wonders of the world, the greatness of creation, the mighty changes of time, the workings of nature, and the beauties of art, to show him those things, that is to say, at any period of his life when he could look upon them, there arose, a hyphen there, there arose among the bigwigs such roaring and raving, such pulpiting and petitioning, such mongering and memorializing, such name calling and dirt throwing, such a shrill wind of parliamentary questioning and feeble replying, where I dare not waited on I would, that the poor fellow stood aghast staring wildly around. لو احنا خدنا لقطة شاشة كده مثلا او عملنا كوبي بيست للجملة دي وحبينا نشوف هي كام كلمة من اول هنا. بص كده how many words is this particular sentence, you will be amazed to know that it is quite long, a very long sentence indeed. And why is he doing that on purpose actually? Why has the writer chosen to write in such a tendentious way? Tendentious, that is to say, very long, quite long. على حظكم البتاع مهنج مش عارف ليه. افتح يا سمسم. So let's open any file here. Word does not want to open. طيب مفيش مشكلة نفتح ده. No. افتح يا سمسم. تمام يعني كده for example this is how long a sentence is. You see, quite long actually, and in PowerPoint I cannot يعني understand how many words they are, but this is quite long. Why? Why is he resorting to such a technique in writing, actually, do you think? He's doing that in order to criticize once again those people who are what bad, who are palpiting. تعالوا ناخد the words that are in the ing form, like roaring, like raving, palpiting, petitioning, maundering, memorializing, name calling, and dirt throwing. Look at how bitter this is, how strong this is, you know. It's quite strong of the writer to use such a language that befits the description: roaring, raving, palpiting, petitioning, maundering, memorializing, name calling, dirt throwing, as if they were in a parliamentary session. يبقى هو هنا with one sweeping brush, one sweeping remark or sentence has managed to scathingly partially attack all this upper class. احنا قلنا ان القصه دي بتتكلم عن class distinction كمان. So this is how people in the British Parliament at that time used to talk to one another, roaring, raving, palpiting. دي كلها اللي هو الزعيق والشتيمة والبذاءة واستخدام الألفاظ الغير لائقة. Name calling. What is name call? When you call somebody names يعني إيه? What is to call somebody a name or names? To call somebody names, that is to say to swear at, to blaspheme. Dirt throwing dirt at people. وحتى shrill wind of parliamentary questioning. حتى كمان الكلمة دي ما عملناش بالأحمر. questioning, feeble, replying. لدرجة إن الكلمة دي I dare not و I would. ما تقدرش وأنا هقدر. you know, اختلط الحابل بالنابل والراجل واقف في الآخر إيه؟ aghast. The poor fellow. المفروض ان هو فقير. He should be the one that is poor, the one that is in need of help. ولكن in front of those people who have forgotten all about decency and gentility. الله الله forgotten all about decency and gentility. بس هم شكلهم اصلا gentle وبيفتخروا ان هم gentle and decent and prestigious and privileged. ده اسمه ايه بقى حضرتك؟ ها؟ اسمه لا مش بس انا irony. Mannerism is called mannerism. Sorry. It's called.
I'm saying juxtaposition. I mean contrast.
juxtaposition تمام. بس احنا عايزين نربطها بقى الاطار النظري اللي احنا اتكلمنا عنه. mannerism اللي هو the affectation of manners. You show that you have manners. You show that you are aristocratic, but you are not. You appear to be decent, but you are not. You appear to be rich, and that is why civilized, but you are not. Do you understand? نرجع تاني بقى لي الكتاب. Sorry. ما صدقني. Okay, so this is a pretty long sentence in which he talks about those people in such a manner. he's talking هنا تلاحظ الحوار طبعا is not between him and them in a direct way. This is not a direct conversation or dialogue. It seems to be so, ولكن actually it goes on in his mind. يمكن بيروح كل فترة كده يسألهم بس بيتوارى مرة تانية و all these thoughts run within him. Have I provoked all this, said he, with his hands to his affrighted ears, by what was meant to be an innocent request plainly arising out of my familiar experience. بقول لهم يعني أنا سألت سؤال innocent. يبقى هنا the contrast between what وده برضو ملمح من ملامح الرواية في القرن ال19 من أول الرومانتكس كده فصاعدا. إيه هو الملمح ده؟ بص على الحلاوة حلاوة. في كتاب أو ديوان شعر اسمه Songs of، حد يعرف التكملة؟ Songs of Innocence and إيه بقى؟ جميل جدا العنوان حتى ومعبر خالص. Songs of Innocence and one of the romantic writers wrote this book of verses. مين هو أو مين هي؟ Have you got an idea؟ مرش عليكم الكلام ده؟ Songs، بص هتلاقيه كتب على طول Songs of Innocence and إيه؟ اقرا فوق عشان تعرف الأستاذ اللي بيدرس لك. ها؟ Songs of Innocence and of hello and of إيه؟ يا
experience.
شباب
experience.
مين بقى اللي عمل الكلام ده بالظبط؟ Songs of Innocence and Experience أهوت اللي كتبها صاحبنا اللي اسمه ويليام بليك، a romantic writer، والكلام ده كان حضرتك اهو Songs of Innocence and Experience. هنكملها هنا بقى. was published by William Blake in 1789. احنا قلنا ان الحركه الرومانسيه بدات في ما يسمى ب، فاكرين الكلمه دي؟ يا رب تكونوا فاكرينها. فاندو ايه؟ حد يعرف يكمل؟ هقولها دلوقتي. ايه اللي حصل للكمبيوتر لما انا عملت المسطره كده؟ لما تاني هكتبها تاني، بص كده على الكلمه دي لما انا بكتبها. ماشي اهو، انا كده ما حركتش المسطره. اول ما اعمل تك شوف الاي اللي بعد الاي هيحصل لها ايه؟ ما حصلهاش حاجه. بس هو عمل لي خط اهو، اتغيرت بقت الاي شكلها ايه؟ Do you understand؟ هي كلمه فرنسيه اصلا. fin de siècle. What is meant by the fin de siècle؟ end of the century. اي century you know ده 18th century ده 19th century. فالكلام ده كان في نهايه ايه القرن ال 18. ويليام بليك عمل الديوان الشعر ده اللي هو بدايه برضو او ارهاصات الرومانتيسيزم. انا ما توهتكوش ولا حاجه على فكره، انا بقى بشرح نفس الفكره اللي انا فيها دلوقتي. احنا كنا دلوقتي بنتكلم عن ايه؟ زميلتكم قالت من شويه وانا بشرح مانيريزم، قالت كلمه جميله خالص احنا قلناها في بدايه المحاضره اللي هي دي. Dickens is fond of juxtaposition، صح؟ طب what kind of juxtaposition here؟ في المنطقه دي ما بين innocence and experience. ادي innocence and this is innocence and this is experience. دي مجموعه قصائد اصلا، a book of poems او published by William Blake in 1789 version of Songs of Innocence، وعمل نسخه ثانيه عدلها سنه ايه؟ الاول كانت Songs of Innocence وبعد كده عملها Innocence and Experience. The songs are now often studied for their literary merit alone, but they were originally produced as illuminated books, engraved, hand-printed, and colored by Blake himself. يعني one of the most important books. ده اللي يهمني أصلا خالص في الجزء ده. وأي حاجة معلومة أنا بقولها جزء لا يتجزأ من المنهج، اقراها كويس وحضرها كويس. إيه اللي أنا عايز أقصده؟ إيه اللي أنا عايز أقوله هنا؟ إن there is a contrast here between the innocence of the ordinary man اللي هو قريب خالص من الرومانتكس. الراجل البطل بتاعنا ده قريب جدا من فترة الرومانتكس، وما بين and the experience of aristocratic people. شفت بقى جاية منين؟ اهو الشعر الرومانسي كله كان بيهتم بإنسنس. الدنيا بقى اتفتحت مع الاندسترياليزيشن وجيوغرافيكال اكسبانشن وكولونيزيشن في القرن ال 19 وده امباير اوفر which the sun never set. ودخلنا بقى في مرحلة الاكسبيرينس. people have become men of the world. What is a man؟ يعني a man of the world. What is meant by a man of the world؟ ها؟ بتساوي an experienced person اللي هو ايه بقى؟ مر بتجارب كتير خاصة منها السفر والحاجات دي كلها. travel and being exposed to different experiences all over the globe, right؟ نروح للفايل. أين أنت يا فايل؟ innocent. هنا افتكرت كلمة innocent هنا. بقول لهم يعني انتوا الكلام ده كله experience، أنا لسه بتحلى بالinnocence. وكان عندي سؤال بسيط خالص اللي هو خاص ب the education of my children. انتوا بتعملوا في نفسكم كده ليه؟ And while he and them are busy discussing the matter of education, there is something common now. حاجة غطت على كل حاجة دلوقتي, and this is زي ما احنا قلنا Dickens بيتكلم في education and the problems of the poor and the problems of diseases and health and hunger and stuff. Now there is a pestilence. فلا يغيب عنه ولا يفوت ديكنز هنا في الجزئية دي إنه he talks about إيه بقى؟ ها؟ A pestilence. What is pestilence يا شباب؟ What is pestilence? Pestilence زي an epidemic. زي COVID-19 for example had appeared among the laborers and was slaying them by thousands. Slaying, this is to say killing them, like the plague or like the cholera. يبقى هنوقف بقى الeducation ونوقف كل الحاجات دي, and they begin to take care of this. This is a communal or social or societal concern. Going forth to look about him, he soon found this to be true. The dying and the dead were mingled in the close and tainted houses among which his life was passed. أول ما بدأ طبعا الديزيز ده أو البانديميك ده بدأ among laborers. أول ما يصيب الناس الفقراء في الأعون. New poison was distilled into the always murky, always sickening air. وهكذا. يبقى هنا لما حصل البيستلنس ده, البيستلنس هنا أثر على الفقراء بس, على الليبررز بس, لا ده أثر كمان على the robust. What is meant by robust? Robust يعني strong أو rich. يبقى the rich and the weak, the old age people in their old age and in their infancy, the father and the mother, all were stricken down alike. يبقى الفقرة دي out of the blue كده فجأة الكاتب قام جايب لنا الفقرة دي, you understand, which talks about the pandemic in order to show us how Dickens is so. طب يعني احنا ممكن ناخدها كده, معلش يبقى كده ونروح على الفايل بتاعنا ده. alright. He was bending over his work وهكذا. يبقى جملة when the news began to spread news about that a pestilence had appeared among the laborers. بس laborers لا, was slaying a lot, killing a lot of people. كان طبعا الكلام ده بيأثر على everyone in the country. الخلاصة ناخد من المثال ده, ها, in Dickens is being a realistic writer par excellence. اسمها كده par excellence. par excellence يعني بامتياز. هو واقعي جدا, مش مجرد ان هو بياخد زاوية واحدة اللي هي بتاعت education, ولكن he is also trying to cover, على اعتبار حضرتك ان طبعا ها بص بقى كده literature is the mirror of the age. فبالتالي he is not just discussing or pointing out or focusing on the problem of education, but he is also showing us a picture of Victorian England in which a pandemic or an epidemic or a disease like this has stricken people, and it has not stricken only the poor, ولكن it began with the poor and then moved to other classes of people. But at times of the pandemic, there is no class distinction. We have to know that. In the pandemic, كله بيستوي بقى. class distinction بيختفي تماما. So الكلام ده كله اللي هو literature is the mirror of the age and Dickens being a realistic writer. احنا ممكن نحط كلمة واحدة بس عشان تعبر عن العنوان ده. حد يعرف يقولها لي؟ لما يبقى الكاتب عنده realism أو a sense of realism أو showing us things as they can be not things as they are. ده اسمه إيه وبيبدأ بحرف ال V.
Verisimilitude.
Exactly. Thank you. So this is verisimilitude, a sense of reality. So he began to see those dearest to him begin to die or die. A kind preacher came to him and would have said some prayers to soften his heart in his gloom. But he replied, "Oh, what avails it, missionary, to come to me, a man condemned to residence in this fated place where every sense bestowed upon me for my delight becomes a torment, and where every minute of my numbered days is new mire added to the heap under which I lie oppressed." هنا كلمة معنى رائع بصراحة للناس اللي مركزة معايا. بص يا حبيبي، الكورس الرواية ده عبارة عن شغل وقراءة وتركيز شديد وتخيل عشان تطلع منه بفايدة كويسة. هي كده رواية القرن 19 كده، تمام؟ So Dickens again is a master of irony and a master of satire. واحنا لسه قايلين في المحاضرات النظريه ان this is not the time for religion. People gave their back to religion. يبقى هيجي بقى religion at this time of suffering and crisis ويقدم للناس الكمفورت اللي هم محتاجينه؟ لا، مش هينفع لان people stopped اصلا to believe in religion. So when a preacher comes over to the gentleman trying to relieve him or to solace him, right. ناخد الكلام ده برضو كل معلومة صغيرة نركز فيها لو سمحتوا. So a preacher came to him to solace or relieve يعني relieve and to get him out of sadness. ها هنا التكملة بقى. Why has the man اللي هو the nobody ده why has the man stopped responding to him؟ ليه ما حسش بيه؟ ليه ما الكلمات بتاعته ما علمتش عنده و he was touched by the priest's words. أنا لسه شارح النقطة دي من شوية. Can you answer please?
Because people in the 19th century weren't really into religion, or they weren't really paying attention to religion.
So قال له يعني يا عم انت بتتكلم في ايه؟ يعني سيبني في حالي، حاجة زي كده يعني. people الله 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 الله. شوف بقى، شوف اللي بيدرس لكم ده يعني عبقري بصراحة، right? We become the indifferent, callous creatures. You often see us, you too often see us. Allah, 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 Allah. You see? People are callous. What is callous? أنا فاكر قلت الكلمة دي في المحاضرة، صح؟ What is callous؟
أيوة، متصلب أو تسلب. حلو، متصلب
تكلس.
أو تسلب
بالظبط، يعني unfeeling, irresponsive. هو هنا المقصود يا شباب مش جسديا بس، مش متصلب جسديا كده، ولكن ايه كمان؟ ها، المقصود روحيا spiritually. الكلام هنا ايه؟ physically and spiritually. You know, both in spirit and in physique people are callous، خلاص indifferent، ما قدروش يتأثروا بالحاجات اللي هي الروحانية دي. فبيقول له اتفضل بقى شيل الناس دي، شيل الميتين اللي تحت out of the small room where we grow to be so familiar with the awful change. Alright، كل ده مفهم. Right. He was at work again, solitary and sad, when his master came and stood near to him, dressed in black. He also had suffered heavily. وهكذا. احنا هنخلص القصة النهارده فاستحملوا شوية معلش. إذا what is the solution to such problems؟ يبقى في مشكلة الإديوكيشن، مين اللي المفروض يتصدر الإديوكيشن؟ ويطلع بمهمته في education and to educate people and to bring up people in the right way. It is the upper class وما يحصلش class distinction. مين برضو اللي يتصدر مشكلة الصحة؟ We cannot live healthily and decently unless they who undertook to manage us provide the means. يبقى those responsible for education should be really responsible for education, and those responsible for health matters should also undertake the responsibility or the issue of taking care of health. We cannot be instructed unless they will teach us. الله الله الله. Again بيرجع تاني لمسألة بيلخص الكلام اللي أنا قلته هو education. We cannot be instructed unless they will teach us. Teach us first and await for us to be educated. Do not expect us to be educated كده on our own. You have to give us, give and take. We cannot be rational amused unless they will amuse us. We cannot but have some false gods of our own while they set up so many of theirs in all the public places. يعني don't live alone in an isolated island. Engage with us and do take care of us. بيرجع نفس الكلام بيرجع له مرة تانية ولكن in a lofty language. He's against imperfect instruction or education. You know, he's against neglect, الإهمال. Against unnatural restraint and denial of humanizing enjoyments اللي هو health matters. يعني بلاش إهمال في النواحي التعليمية والدينية والصحية. كل ده will all come from us and none of them will stop with us. They will spread far and wide. النتائج مذهلة لو انتوا فضلتوا تهملوا بالشكل ده. They always do. They always have done. Just like the pestilence. الآفة بتاعت الإهمال في religion، في science، في health، في education هتنتشر زي انتشار البيستلنس ده بالظبط. يمكن ديكنز هنا استخدم كلمة pestilence بالمناسبة. احنا قلنا الآفة أو المرض أو العدوى الكبيرة دي. كلمة pestilence is used is symbolic of what? It is symbolic of negligence, symbolic of يعني negligence يعني الإهمال الشديد. So as much as you neglect education or health or social equality ما يبقاش يعني في class distinction for example. Okay, the awful result will spread just like an epidemic. العواقب وخيمة لو حصل إهمال في الاتجاهات دي وساينس وغيره. right? But the master said again, oh you laboring men. master هو حوار متخيل ما بين الراجل اللي هو الغلبان ده وما بين the master اللي هو ممثل للأرستقراطس دول. قول له اهو انتوا كده يا فقراء او يا غلابه. You laboring men, how seldom do we ever hear of you except in connection with some trouble. عمرنا نسمعكم الا لما يكون في مشكله. Master he replied, I'm nobody and little likely to be heard of. زي في بدايه القصه انا يعني حيالله واحد ما حدش بيسمع عنه خالص. Not heard, not wanted, not heard of except when there is some but it never begins with me. مش انا اللي بعمل المشكله. And it never can end with me. As sure as death, it comes down to me and it goes up from me. يعني أنا I'm the center of إذا قلنا بقى the center of the universe. I'm the center of the universe. Do take care of me. احنا قلنا Dickens championing the cause of the poor and the suffering and the oppressed. Everything starts here. طيب ياخد الكلام ده على محمل الجد ويبتدي يشتغل عليه ويصلح ويعمل ريفورم؟ لا. there was so much reason what he said. ايوه ولكن هنرجع نلاقيهم رجعوا برضو لايه؟ لترامبتنج ودiscussing و raising their voices. do you understand؟ هنا مين اللي بيتكلم بقى؟ ده narrative voice. there was so much reason in what he said. that the Bigwig family, getting wind of it and being horribly frightened by the late desolation, resolved to unite with him to do the things that were right at all events, so far as the said things were associated with the direct prevention, humanly speaking, of another pestilence. يعني هم خافوا واترعبوا وقالوا مش عايزين pestilence تاني لما هو ربط لهم الدنيا وقال لهم النتيجة هتبقى وحشة وهيبقى فيه pestilence مش بس بقى صحيا ولكن دينيا وثقافيا واجتماعيا وكله، فخافوا من النقطة دي. فحفاظا على المسألة دي قالوا they are frightened بقى، they began to be frightened. ولكن but as the fear wore off مع الوقت fear wore off يعني they began to forget this and to be settled, which is to, so began to do they resumed their ايه بقى falling out among themselves. فبالتالي رجعوا بقى للحتة اللي احنا بنتكلم فيها اللي هو brawling, talking, discussing, quarreling وخلاص and they forgot their responsibility. احنا كده قربنا بقى خالص من نهاية الايه القصة. شوف not a man among them ever admitted if in the least degree he ever perceived that he had anything to do with it. ولا واحد فيهم تحمل كده بشجاعة المسؤولية عن انه هو المسؤول عن reforming society او changing society. لا admitted ولا perceived. شوف الاثنين دول but ايه الفرق ما بين admit و perceive؟ but no one among them ever admitted or perceived. لا حس ولا اعترف. يبقى البعدة ايه؟ نرجع للكلمة اللي كانت فوق دلوقتي callous. They are callous people. They are irresponsive. يمكن دي عنوان الانتقادات كلها اللي وجهها ديكنز للناس دي. ففضلت المشكلة، ومن هنا بيقول ايه بقى في الآخر so nobody lived and died since nothing has changed. Everything is the same. So we lived and died in the old way. And this, in the main, يعني basically, mainly, is the whole of nobody's story. يعني things are going to remain as they are under negligence, under oppression, under lack of facilities, under neglect of health and social improvement and social reform and every kind of reform. طالما there is that kind of class distinction، طالما ان الناس دي اللي هي منوط بيها انها تعمل الكلام ده are callous and irresponsive. You see في الاخر بقى في الكونكلوجن had he no name you ask. طبعا this is قلنا archaic English يعني old English. That is to say, did he have any name? And this you might ask as a reader, who is that person? What's his name? Perhaps it was Legion. يمكن كان اسمه Legion, for example, مثلا. It matters little actually what his name was. Let us call him Legion. يعني اديله اسم كده زي Legion. طب هنا سؤال، اشمعنى كلمة Legion اللي اختارها ديكنز؟ يعني هو مش اسمه Legion ولا حاجة، بس هو قال يعني نقول Legion. مبدئيا كده نقول Legion. What's Legion؟ انا اعرف كلمه ليجن وانا في سنكم على فكره، من نفسي كده الحمد لله. فاكر اول في كلمات كده الواحد بيعرف او بيفتكر هو
فيلق.
عرف. يعني فيلق بقى كويس، انت جبتها من القاموس بسرعه، شاطر. بس يعني فيلق ليجن يعني a group of people, a number of people. فيلق خاصه في النواحي اللي هي ايه الميليتري environments you know. فبالتالي هنا برضو الاسم very symbolic. Legion is a very symbolic name. ليه بقى؟ Because he represents everyone. هو nobody بس في نفس الوقت هو a legion. يعني هو أمة لوحده، هو لوحده يعني بيمثل ناس كتير جدا. تعالوا بقى لل 132 دي جميلة قوي. بص كده معايا حضرتك، ادي 132. عامل هنا لينك حلو قوي ما بين ديكنز وما بين كاتب مصري مشهور في الستينات والسبعينات وبداية الثمانينات اسمه صلاح عبد الصبور، اللي هو عامل الناس في بلادي جارحون كالصقور، وعامل ليلى والمجنون، وعامل مسافر الليل والإبحار في الذاكرة، وهكذا. في مسافر الليل اسمها نايت ترافلر، بيقول الجزء ده، دي مسرحية أصلا، مسرحية شعرية بلاي مكتوبة شعرا. الراوي بطل رواياتنا. اربط بقى ما بين الكلام بتاع صلاح عبد الصبور وما بين اللي هو كان فين بقى في نهاية السبعينات، 1900 حاجة و70 أو 1900 حاجة و80، يعني بعد ديكنز بيمكن ب 150 سنة أو 130 سنة. بطل رواياتنا ومهرجها رجل يدعى، زي ما قال هنا، بص كده فوق. He has no name you ask. Perhaps it was Legion. It matters little what his name was. افتكر بقى الكلمة دي. تمام؟ ها، رجل يدعى، ها ونقط، يعني يدعى ايه؟ يعني يدعى ما يدعى. ماذا يعني الاسم؟ والوردة تحت أي اسم تنشر عطرا، والقنفذ تحت أي اسم يدخل في جلده. صنعته أية صنعة، ولنحكم من هيئته وثيابه، وعلى كل فالأمر بسيط. صنعته أية صنعة. I found out that there is that close connection between Salah Abdul Sabur in his Night Traveler and in his description of the hero as someone who is a legion, you know, زي ما ديكنز هنا بيقول بالظبط, someone representing a class of people, a number of people. So let us not be interested in his name or in his profession, but we're interested much more actually in the symbolism behind the name, the representation actually, or rather of the figure of that. احنا بنسميه على فكرة أحيانا, بص كده, عارف الكلمة دي؟ What is that word? Non-entity. What is non-entity؟ بنسميها نكرة. أو بص جت إيه بقى؟ شوف بص على الحلاوة. ها، إيه معناها أول حاجة؟ خدت بالك؟ تاني. Non-entity. يعني إيه non-entity؟ Synonyms. أول كلمة فيها nobody, unknown, mediocrity, nothing, insignificant person. شفت بقى الجمال؟ تاني بص. non-entity, right? Like nobody. But is he really nobody? هل القصة دي يا شباب بتتكلم عن شخص ما؟ يعني قصة شخص ما كده منفرد حصل له اللي حصل وخلاص؟ هي اللي مش عارف ايه اللي حصل لي, right? لما تغيب عن عيني. Is he just a guy, a person who came across certain things and suffered from certain things? Well, does he represent a class of people, a number of people? Of course, he is totally different. He represents a legion. I have come to the conclusion of this lecture. Thank you very much. If you have